to introduce our board. We do have most of our board members here. For those of you that don't know me, I am the board chair, Beth Bachman. Our secretary is standing outside with the sign-in sheet, Christy Kelly. Brad McDonald is currently transitioning the treasurer spot over to Lane, who is also standing out with the sign-in sheet. And then we have Linda as our assigner. Everybody, I think, here knows that she is going to be assigning remotely. And then training chair is Kendra up here with the tripod. And then we have two other individuals, Parrish, who is not here, Parrish Gunnels, one of our at-large members, and then Joe Manis. All right. I'm going to turn it over to Kendra for the rules interpretation part as our training chair. Maybe.
How many of you watched one of the USAL webinars?
I wanted to really.
I
missed it.
Yeah, they had several back in like November, December, even starting, and then there was one last week, and there's one more for the high school and the youth, and I have it noted when we get up and running. But essentially, they've posted it now, so we're going to go over that information. They have it in a PDF as well. So. All right, so couple things for, I'll go ahead and start, and then this will just populate up and we can zip through those few again. But the 3 points of emphasis, as we know, every year there are the three. This year it is the use of green card for the delayed game, managing safe play in the 8-meter, and also offensive fouls inside the CSA. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of those. Is my teacher voice good, or do I need the mic? We good?
Good.
Awesome. Okay. So proper use of a green card. So delayed game, those procedures. As officials, it's important to us to discourage and penalize those type of fouls. Oh, yes. So that,
Can you say this is a high school, a youth, or both?
Yes, so this is all of the girls' rules, and then there will be some towards the latter part that will apply specifically to youth. Yes, good question. All right, so using the green card again, penalize the foul so it doesn't interrupt the play. So part of our job as the officials is to go ahead and, show that delayed game card, teach the girls, proper procedures so that it doesn't continue to interrupt the flow of the game. So, when we talk here in another hour, we'll review that as our officials group. Even more, ignoring the violation or repeatedly resetting the play only allows for more of that same behavior that we want to, nail down and get correct. So, green card management, we are going to handle that again in our piece, managing safe play in the 8-meter arc. So again, us working together, managing that, teaching the players about the rules that minimize risk in the 8 meters, some of those specific fouls, dangerous propel, dangerous follow through, those kind of things, shooting space, everything going right there towards goal, checks to the head, dangerous. We can go on there.
And as you do that real quick, so delay game, think how the majority of delay game calls will be on the draw. So think late substitutions, a lot of times it happens late, and then all of a sudden like someone jumps on last minute. Think once the center official has the hands on the stick, you can no longer sub. Right? So think that's your stop point. And even I would just say as you're walking up, as the officials are walking up to grab the sticks, just be cautious of that. But once they touch the sticks, no more movement. They can't even cross, they can't go from B side to A side, nothing like that. Once it's set, it's set.
Yeah.
So I think that is what we're going to do.
And it's really like just procedural, yeah, and kind of just making sure we all understand that. Okay, so playing in the arc, again, those type of fouls I started with. Dangerous uncontrolled play, checking to the head and or neck area. Defenders using their stick in that horizontal position. There's some more information on that. Making contact, and then rough and dangerous checking. There's a little clarity on that for one of the rules coming up here in a bit as well. Next, the offensive fouls inside the CSA. All right, so inside that critical scoring area, officials are recognizing the illegal play again on the attack. I'm sure this is a little bit of a touchy one, right? And the vantage point from maybe official calling versus is it an attack or the defense making those calls. So we do try our best to identify who initiates the illegal contact. But focus on the offensive fouls, not consistently called by officials. So again, working on that and not always penalizing potentially those defensive players. And also the off-ball, okay? All right, any questions on points of emphasis? All right, rule changes, kind of a light year this year. It's kind of nice. Several things, and this nice is kind of the new change with the quarters, and then going from halves to quarters, and they only had it in the second and fourth. Now we have that last minute of stop clock with fouls in the CSA for every quarter. Okay, so it adds a little more makes more sense to have that in all of those. There are a few specifics that they address as well. So as an example, the clock stops, so as far as the rule book, so this is like what we get, the black and white, right? So the clock is to be stopped on the official's whistle and our arm signal for the goal when a foul is called during the CSA during the last minute of each quarter, right? Team leading by 10 or more, it's going to be running clock, so it will not stop at that time, just like we're used to. So an application example is there's play happening, there's a foul called at 1:03 left in the quarter in the CSA. However, the timer does not stop the clock. Correct procedure because it was outside of the 1 minute when the play stopped. Now, granted, maybe the girls aren't set up until it's inside the minute. However, the foul was called at 1:03, therefore the clock does not stop at that time. Okay, so let's see, the draw. All right, so draw play. When one player draws illegally, free position will be taken at the spot. So that is the change. Self-start is permitted unless the clock is stopped. There's an example to show the difference between those coming up. And then a redraw happens when both players would draw illegally. Okay, and clock is still stopped in that instance as well, and we can just reset. So for the rule book, it highlights, and I won't read through all this, but it highlights what is different in the rule text. So the red portion, so spot of the ball is the change, and then the second part of that, a redraw will occur at the center line. So kind of just a clarity piece. And then the application on the next slide will really be how are we differentiating between these two situations. So for instance, in this first one, the official is backing out, blowing the whistle to start play. One of the centers fails to draw up. Right, so at that point it becomes illegal. The official blows the whistle to indicate an illegal draw and awards free position to the other player. So a self-start is permitted here because we had already blown the whistle to start play, right? And then we blew it again for the illegal part. So player positioning shall not apply. Everything is live, right, happening. Players can self-start. The girls should be aware of still giving that 4 meters of free space, but we know with the self-start, they're just going to probably take off, especially from there. And if it's that quick, there's probably nobody other than her other center right with her anyway.
So just make sure they don't roll it back to the center circle, right? So if it's an illegal draw, the ball rolls out of the circle, your girl in the circle all of a sudden picks it up and just rolls it back to the center for, let's say, your face-off person's run off and someone else comes on to get it back, like, that ball in is a lot. So just keep that in mind. Granted, probably won't happen a ton, but just let them know that's a live ball. As soon as they pick it up and then roll it back. Good.
And then the other piece here is official blows the whistle to indicate a legal draw because somebody moved after the official said ready. So in this instance, we set the sticks, we say ready, no whistle has happened yet, and someone moved, so before the whistle to start play, the illegal draw occurred, and so on that instance, they're going to start with the whistle. Does that make sense, the difference there? It's kind of a very small piece, and it's going to be happening fast, so I feel like in this instance, we may even have to, you know, the girls are, I mean, it'll be quick, but.
Can you clarify for youth on this though? Because we generally do not have a stopped clock at any time.
Yeah.
So what, I mean, would the procedure just be that the ball is live automatically anytime that there's an illegal draw then?
I would think, yeah, I mean, we're gonna have, go ahead. I would say, you know, probably, yes, because even if it's supposed to, they're supposed to start on that whistle again, trying to play this in my head, it's like gonna be so fast, right? It's not even gonna, you know, I mean, it's gonna be a tweak or whatever, so I think it would just happen. Yeah, I think it would just happen, yeah.
Okay.
So that's true. All right, minor fouls. Minor fouls, yes, how long have we been waiting for this? So, as an official also, not a lot of minor fouls called anymore relative to some of the others, setting them in that indirect, but there is no indirect positioning now for a minor foul in the, down there in the 12-meter fan. So, before it was, let me make sure, is it in the, yeah, let's go ahead and go to the next slide, and we'll see the change. So before, you have a minor foul inside the 12, player comes to the 12, girls relative, positioning 4 meters away, indirect, they have to pass before they can go directly to goal. Now, we clear the lane and they can shoot on a minor foul positioning. So that's going to be great. I mean, let's be honest, most of the time they shot anyway, right? So now we can all be on the same page. Questions on that one? That's probably a good change. All right. Next, example. I think there's application here, we'll just zip through it. So minor foul on red inside the fan, official sets up blue on the 12. We clear, so legal, they may shoot from free position, and we're gonna just clear the lane. Because clearly if they're shooting, we don't want anyone in shooting space. Do they have to shoot? No. Could they still pass? Certainly. But, you know, they can go ahead and go on to goal. And then last few here, so into major fouls. So these next couple are probably going to be our biggest ones. It's on the player positioning and use of the stick and contact. So illegal picks, always a hot topic. Player's body and stick position for a pick is legal when. So two things we are looking for. The cross is held, vertical position between 10 and 2. So kind of this here, yes. And body is in the vertical plane, not wider than shoulder width. So they're not taking up more space than their actual body, essentially, is what that means. All right, so the next slide, it has the text change. So to be legal, the cross must be in that vertical position. So essentially not the horizontal. All right, and then the shoulder width is there. And then also, we are looking to see that it's in the visual field and that the other player has time and space to move. Now, every time, and even in our fall ball this year, picks can be moving. Okay, moving and stationary. It is in the rule book. Now, it can still be illegal as a moving pick. It can be illegal as a stationary pick, right? But the players can be moving, and again, we're looking for this criteria. Any questions on that? Okay, so here's an example. So application here, the offensive player sets a legal pick within the visual field of the opponent As the opposing player approaches, the player setting the pick moves their stick from, let's say they're 10 and 2, to now they're horizontal, and blocks the approaching opponent. Contact occurs. So keywords there, the contact. All right. So illegal, and with the horizontal stick. So illegal pick. The player setting the pick committed a foul for the illegal pick by moving their cross to the horizontal position and making contact. And then that leads us to the illegal stick piece for major fouls. So what is the definition of illegal stick? So on the next slide is the change. So a stick held in a horizontal position that makes contact with the opponent's body or cross. Okay, so just holding it there, fine. Once we're using it to make contact with the body or cross, that's when it becomes a problem. So for the application example, defender is holding their stick vertically between 10 and 2. As the attack approaches, the defender moves their stick to a horizontal position and then shoves it towards the opponent's cross and then creates contact, therefore illegal stick contact. So just kind of a little additional, I think, clarity in that rule. We've had horizontal stick for a bit, right? This is also, the girls will like this edition particularly. So rough and dangerous check has some added verbiage to it. So we'll go on to the change. So rough and dangerous check by definition, when it's rough or reckless, checking another player's cross or using the cross in a dangerous manner. And now included when the check occurs on the body, including the hands. So the hands, not necessarily before it was part of the stick, now the hands are part of the body and therefore it could be illegal in this definition. So there's two applications, one with an example of this happening and one with an incidental contact. So it's good to, we'll go over both of those. Yes?
So at the youth, a lot of the girls will actually choke up a lot and their hands are a lot closer to the heads.
Sure.
So obviously 5'6" we do modify below the shoulders, but their hands are still there. How is that going to, like, how does that work when you've got their hands closed, but they still are trying to get that head,
Yeah.
but their hands are right there?
So I would say
Teaching them to
the
check.
intention of this rule, especially, like you saw this a lot last year, later in the season. Defenders were actually deliberately checking players' hands, attacking players' hands, like literally just poke checking their hands. Because technically that was legal, and you're just destroying their hands. So that is the intention behind that rule. So I would say that's where this example of like unintentional, right? Like it doesn't happen all the time, but if it's unintentional. 5'6", obviously they're below the shoulder, so it's modified anyway. It's a little different, but I would say in high school there could still be incidences where someone gets checked in the hands, and that may not be definitely.
So is that a legal cradle though, if their hands is close to closer to the head? Or like, what can we do there? Because if they're if somebody's cradling it and their head's right here and it's below their shoulders, shouldn't they be allowed to check that? But then they're so close to their hands. I don't want kids to get hurt.
Sure, well, and even the defensive positioning would apply, so they don't have to check, right, at that level. That's still, if they're in position to check and they can maintain a position in the 3 seconds, then that would be the check. So something to emphasize. We have a note to mention to our officials about, the younger levels to look out for like the incidental and that intentiveness, because that really is part of it, because it wasn't technically a rule. I think as they develop, they'll only get better at checking properly and at the stick head instead of just, the shaft. But there's value to, all areas of the stick. So yes.
I just want to clarify, you talk about horizontal stick to body. At youth, there is no stick to body, whether it's horizontal or vertical. If that shaft is hitting the body, it should be a call.
Yeah, and that'll come up again in the use slide. Yeah. So let's look at the two examples. And the first one, so as a defender is running down the field along her opponent, beside her opponent, the defender swings her stick, hits the attack player's hand at the bottom of the cross to dislodge the ball. So illegal. Players may not hit the opponent's hand when checking the cross. So maybe not necessarily intentional. However, you know, going for the check, there's some skill to that, right? They have to know it's the right time and place, and now this is just something that they'll have to also look for to make it a legal check. Don't check the hands. On the next example, for this one's going to have the incidental. So defender and attack player sticks are in contact as the defender legally holds her position, so she's in place. While doing so, position of the sticks change and the defender's cross touches the attack player's hand. So correct procedure, this is not a dangerous check because it was incidental and not caused by checking. So kind of along the lines of, you know, there's incidental contact that can happen with sticks anywhere on the body, but was there actually a check made, or were they just all jumbled together and sticks are hitting, you know, each other, that kind of thing. So, you know, something for us to additionally look out for. Anything else on that?
This might be tough for you guys during a shot, right? Like I'm just thinking of the shooter kind of holding like, ouch, I shot kind of through, but then the defender just was there for that. Like if it's legal from the defender's perspective, but then she shot through and hit her own knuckles kind of, but then were severely hurt, maybe bleeding. Like I feel like that happens at least once a game, maybe twice a game, or he attacks or shoots through, but the defender's stick is there. That just might be something to think about.
Yeah, and as you described it, then it wouldn't be a legal check, right? Yeah. Good comments. Anything else?
Something I would clarify on that too, because it happens a ton in youth games. If like the defense is playing legal defense and the attacker goes to switch hands or something and the contact is made from that, a lot of people are like asking for a check or an illegal check or things like that, but that was initiated by the attacker. So like I just think that everybody needs to kind of understand that like just because sticks clink together doesn't mean that the defense did something illegal.
Yep. That's a good point. Okay. And then there's some editorial changes, kind of just some little verbiage things. So if the official score is not seated at the table, somebody needs to be able to be in touch with that person. Kind of know that, but just, again, kind of some technicalities put in the rule book. Officials prior to the game will meet the head coach and captains talking about good sportsmanship. We'll talk more about that here in a bit. Always essentially a point of emphasis in our area. And then improper equipment, certainly anything that doesn't comply with the rules. Cross failure, no cards. Next one, yellow, red cards include same penalty administration as misconduct. Okay, alcohol, tobacco, okay, they were good. Okay, field cross. So shooting strings. So for, you know, checking your players on some of these field cross things. Restarting play, they have information there about, they just added 4 meters to a couple areas. Free position, just some verbiage to kind of clarify, but not any actual rule changes in this section. And then certainly at the end, there is, one more back. And then submitting, yeah. Oh, we can read the offside. So a team playing short due to suspension or ejection, so that's a yellow or a red card, of a player shall play short below the restraining lines in both offensive and defensive ends of the field for the entire penalty time. So again, just kind of note for clarity on some of that. We know that, right? But some of this, again, just the editorials to make sure it's actually listed in NTWLOA. And then lastly, if you have any rule questions, proposals, etc., then you can submit a change to be reviewed for next year. All right. Any questions on that? There's a few other things we're going to go over, kind of some housekeeping, sportsmanship, and then certainly we'll have time for round robin questions and so on. I left this slide in here, the points of emphasis. Again, the green cards play inside the 8, and then also the attack fouls. But just to kind of revisit what changed in 2024, to make sure that those are still kind of top of mind. The pause of the self-start at the high school level, stick to body contact at the youth level, so that was 2024, and like I said, there's still some more coming on that in our section. And then the youth timing, we have the flexibility with the quarters versus halves and running clocks, and kind of we have our own local things that we do with that. So for the sportsmanship piece, and this is from USA Lacrosse, also big in our area, but sportsmanship is going to be for everyone, right? A lot of us wear different hats, officials, coaches, players, a lot of overlap, parents, fans, any of that. So all of us having good sportsmanship really is going to matter for these kids, all right? It's based on respect of the rules, respect of all those involved in the game, the sideline, on the field, coaches, players, officials, administrators, spectators, demonstrating a positive environment for these kids. Okay. Stick to body contact. Again, this is for the youth piece here. So legal and safe use of the cross is essential. So these are the developing years, right? We're trying to teach them how to have good stick skills. Their bodies are everywhere. They're learning, the way their body moves. They grow really fast. Like, there's a lot happening at that youth level, and so the rules are modified for those kind of things and for learning. So legal and safe use of the cross is critical for this protected, youth level. We'll go back. So the rules prohibit, again, the youth players from using their stick to hit, push, or displace. So displace any, contact or, the body or stick that moves them off their path. And we, as the officials, have to recognize, make those calls, and penalize that stick to body. So managing safe playing 8 meters. So same points of emphasis, but again, just at the youth. So, coaches teaching the girls about these rules as well, and then the officials to call, and there's that same kind of list that we went over earlier. Professionalism, tying back to that sportsmanship piece, coaches, players, officials, everyone involved in the game, reminded to avoid excessive dissent, abusive language. The girls, they pick up on all that stuff. I mean, we can hear things, right? Everyone, the girls are very intuitive, and, they pick up on those behaviors, and then they bring those behaviors in. Then that creates a different feel for the game, right? For those others involved in the game too, and vice versa, certainly. So, keep that in mind, and even the officials of these youth games, they're just kids too. So, just trying to be patient with all these new players, new officials, learning, especially at these youth levels, and even at the high school level, they're still kids. So, and then this is just a summary of the youth-only changes. We can send a couple of these PDFs already posted, but we can certainly include, kind of the highlights, and I think this next one too. But the youth-only changes, 6 and 8U, certified coaches can be on the field. So there's the coaches training, at the USA site, restart after a goal is scored, official moves, removes the ball from the goal, gives it to a player from that team. All other players will be moved 4 meters away. If a goalie is present, then the goalie can clear. So we certainly have had that in our area. And then modified checking, transitional checking, and just, when we have our officials meeting, emphasizing again below the shoulder. Some of the things that we brought up as coaches, those were great points. And then the sixes, which that's going to continue to be something to grow in our area. And then the high school rules, self-starting, and then stick to body contact and defense. Just a summary of kind of what we went over. Questions on that? Yes.
So transitional checking from behind, it has to be below the shoulder, because I have not seen that. It's always been above the shoulder. So are we actually having below the shoulder if you're behind?
What is that?
The last part, yeah. Checking movement has to be down and away from the body, below the shoulder.
Down and away from the body, below the shoulder.
Yeah, for 14 years,
Okay, because that's just not what's done in practice. Like, I've never seen that follow below the shoulder, like, from behind.
Well, that it's always been out here. That
Yeah.
Now it needs to be down
Okay,
and away.
I'm just gonna say with like previously,
Below the shoulder.
below the shoulder from behind, they're constantly hitting above, so that might be something that we just need to make sure we emphasize.
This year, we'll be focusing our youth officials to make sure that they understand that they're coming from behind. It needs to be below the shoulder.
Perfect. Okay, so we will work on that. Okay.
Yeah, the biggest difference there is from behind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like a slash. Yeah. A lot of times.
Like when they're coming from behind you, it's like reaching across, a lot of times, it's just
No, it's a trail check from behind, they're saying it's below the shoulder. That's exactly what they're saying. So modifies everything below. 14U, they're saying if you're behind trail checking, it's got to be below the shoulder. That is not what I said. Unless this is a new. No, because we, yeah, they dropped it, yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, these are the changes. So this slide summarizes specifically so that, yes, it is a more specific change and we'll have to go over that as well, yeah.
I just know that the behind the trail check is 7/8, which is 14U. So that's going to be a huge thing for the players to realize.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
The other
Oh, okay. Yes.
The other thing on that slide, we voted in 2022 to do a draw after every goal at 10U. So do we need to like re-vote tonight on going to this rule? So that we're,
I would say not if you voted that in 2020.
You already have a local rule in place, you didn't do it.
we have a rule, yeah, we have like our local rule is in place that we do a draw after every goal.
Yeah, you have that supersedes the national.
Yes, but this was voted on prior to this going into effect, is what I'm saying. So like, do we need to re-vote that we're going with US, so we'll just bring it up in our meeting next? Okay.
And will you send us what you guys vote on to Candace?
Yeah, she will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about
And then if you guys can add to your list from, like for when you have the actual officials in here, from our youth perspective, the cards, since they're being an emphasis anyways this year, especially we had questions about cards at like 3-4, and cards do exist. They can get a yellow card, but they just don't play short. So I just want to make sure that that's emphasized in the meeting with the actual officials so that they understand that, so it gets called correctly. And then the second thing was the illegal rolling of the ball underneath the net when they're playing with the shot blocker, right? Was there, I think that's all I have. Is that your question?
Like intentionally rolling it.
Yeah, because like a lot of the girls, when they see
Like
that,
they
they come in and try to get it.
They like keep hitting the
It's
sack
actually
over and over and over again so they start. Right. You can't.
the shuffle underneath the.
It has to be a real song.
That's not a
So I just want to make sure that that's on y'all's list for like the actual
What is,
like the actual.
if they're carded, what is the actual penalty to the player?
They have to leave the field and you don't play short.
And how long do they have to be out of the game for?
2 minutes.
It's still two, so it's the same, they serve 2 minutes, but you can put a sub in.
Yeah, that's fine, okay.
Yeah.
So as it.
At 3-4.
At 3-4, yeah.
Not at 3-4.
So was that getting muddled, like they were? not
No, they weren't
allowing-
really carding at all.
Oh, not at all.
They, like, somebody would check at 3-4 and hit somebody else, and there was no cards happening, and it was just kind of just, oh, whistle 4 meters away, keep playing, and like, girls are getting hit in the face, like, at 3-4 with the crazy sticks, so.
Are there any, one other thing we wanted to touch on was girls. One other thing we do have, the 2025 girls youth rules comparison is out, and I will forward this out to everyone, whoever needs it. Or I'll just send it to Tamsin and Candace, and you guys can
Yes.
disseminate it. Because that is important, and but it will not have on there any of the local rules that are voted on. So
Just know that, yeah.
We take this and share this with our coaches, we go in and change and put the local rules in, and then this is what we do.
So again, just one other time to recap sportsmanship, and I'm gonna ask, especially from a youth perspective, because I feel like that's where we get a lot of calls and, complaints, like frustrated officials calling. Just remember, Kendra mentioned it, but our officials at the youth level that are on your youth level games are typically your players from the high school level. So just remember they're your players, your daughters, whatever. So if there's something that we really, you notice and it's repetitive, bring it to our attention so we know and we can get somebody out there to work with that person, or at least watch them and give them feedback. That's how we're going to help them develop, and because a lot of them are new and they're definitely not going to necessarily know all the rules. We want them to, and we are working better with our youth officials to have our adults there on site to help them and give them feedback. So just know that.
Are you the best point of contact for that?
What was that?
Are you the best point of contact for that?
Yeah. Also, in addition to that, if you have any, at high school level, obviously, any yellow or any red cards do come to Linda and I. And so I would just know that we would be notifying you all about players that, working with Scott to make sure that player would be out the next game. Hopefully we don't have any red cards this season. That would be great. But in the event, if you all have it at the high school level, have coaches, or have complaints of any of our officials at the high school level, of course, copy myself and Linda on that as well. You can, or if you have a formal complaint, obviously you would take it up to Scott, and then Scott and I would talk about that. So, any other input regarding that?
One other thing that will definitely come up that I check every single year, just to get pulled out. So just remember, visible undergarments must be white, gray, black, or one of the team's uniform colors. So it could be green, blue, brown, orange, if that's what your predominant color is, you can do that. Or white, gray, black is always good. So just remember, the penalty is only at the first call. So you can't hold on to it and then go into overtime and be like, she's wearing a yellow undergarment. You can't do that. Only the very first call.
But it should be, if gray is the color, then it should be gray for everyone.
Yes.
Not a gray, a blue, and a black.
Yeah.
So it's uniform, so then we have, that are,
So white, gray, black, or 1 year predominant.
Let me
So, before we go to just a couple of administrative items, are there any questions regarding any rules, questions, clarifications regarding play?
What are cardinal offenses for you?
All the same ones that are in the rule book for high school.
Okay, so they don't matter.
So, yes, check to the head, dangerous contact, slash, yeah.
Dangerous follow through. that's all.
Dangerous play could also be switched up. It's kind of both of them choice usage as an official.
Any other questions? Okay. So just real quickly, I'm going to touch on some administrative items. Schedules are live. Linda probably sent out that, or well, I know she sent out that email that schedules are live. Just make sure that you have checked them, make sure they're accurate. If you do have any changes, try to incorporate all your changes into one email so that it only is one change. If a change is less than 48 hours, we do require a text and an email. So again, please just that way we know and make sure that an email could, potentially be missed. Changes within the contract, you do get up to 2 changes per season before a $50 change fee will be assessed. So just, again, try to incorporate as many changes into one email. Cancellations, if there is a cancellation due to weather that's less than 2 hours prior to game time, a fee will be incurred. So again, if there is weather, you're trying to figure out if there's potentially, you want to reschedule the game, just make sure you do it outside of that 2 hours. Only if it's within the. Yeah, yeah, fee and officials, yeah.
If we're canceling, who are we reaching?
Typically, you're gonna reach out to Linda, the assigner, yeah. She'll notify me, but Linda, since she's handling all the schedules, yeah. And she's typically on top of it, so very responsive. And if I need to, I'm assuming that everybody has those contacts, but I can definitely send out all the emails on my follow-up email when we close. Invoices. Invoices have been sent as of the 15th. For high school, youth will be coming out obviously after the schedule is complete, but invoices have been sent, so just please make sure that I know that we've been receiving some already, so thank you to those of you that have paid, but try to get those paid within the 30-day time frame. Table and clock requirements. Please ensure that there is a table, so if your person at the table is not your clock operator, make sure that there is someone at the table that can relay quickly with the clock, whether that's by cell phone, walkie-talkie, whatever it might be, because us officials do need to be able to reset the clock, communicate with that clock. Also, at the table, just ensure that you have someone there keeping track of cards, and cards, score, clock, everything. Home team, yeah, home team's required. Trainer at all the home games, just a friendly reminder about that. And then fields lined properly. I know that there's a couple of the unified fields, so if you can make sure that if you are playing on a unified field this spring, email myself and Linda, that would be great so that we can inform the officials. And then also just making sure that all the lines are properly lined and the dots are there. If you do not have the dots painted on the field, if you can please ensure that they are taped. Holes filled in, whatever there might be, so that when game time comes, field's ready to go. We would appreciate that. Thank you. Important upcoming dates. We do have a virtual spring training. We don't always do a spring officials training, so if any of you would like to join, or if you have parents on your other players that want to do the officials training, they can register. We have sent the information out, but I can send that as well. It's next Monday and Wednesday, and it is virtual. We will be conducting some field training at the Capel tourney that's coming up on February 8th and 9th. And outside of that, important upcoming dates. We do have the rules Interp. There are a couple still left. Monday the 3rd, the girls' high school is still out there, so that's just a lot of the information we went over. Well, all of the information, but they will have that out there if you want to revisit, as well as the girls' youth on Monday the 24th. So any youth coaches, they will go into a little bit more detail. I know we both listened to it, but if they may have some other questions that come up, I'm sure we'll listen to it again. And then tourney dates and other dates that are coming up this spring, you may already have them, but I just wanted to list them. The Capel tournament, February the 9th, SPC in April, and then the playoffs start, or the play-ins start April 26th and 27th. So we're looking forward to a great season. And outside of that, any other questions?
Can you go back 2 slides just for the training day? I can picture that.
Yep. And we welcome any and all officials. We've lost some officials this year, so we do, just from being injured, moving away. So we are welcoming any and all volunteers.
I know high school had a certain point until the 15th where they got 3 changes on their schedules. Does you have a window for 3 changes, or are changes immediately going to be?
Tamsin and Candace will probably talk about when the schedule is due for the youth in the next meeting.
Okay.
But that schedule, I think is due on the 28th.
Well, everything's due to us, so we can.
Yes.
And then, so we'll give you all that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if there's like a change window.
There, you do get
Yeah.
there is usually a free change window right at the
Thank
beginning,
you.
but then, and then we'll get that dates for you too.
Question is, what's the minimum age to start out as a rep? My girls are not
14.
14?
Yep. You basically have to be 2 years older than the 3-4. So 2 levels. Yeah, 2 levels older. So. Yep. So there, I know we have several signed up so far. Anything else before I adjourn? Well, we thank everybody for coming. Please let us know if you have any questions. We're here, we're getting ready to do our officials meeting after this, and then I'll send a recap with some of the questions that did come up and some other things that we said that we would send out.
Will you share the whole, the slide then, like the dates, the important dates?
Yes,
Okay.
I will send all that.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it. Thank you so much.